Finally, the orientation is. Couldn't find the whole advanced settings thing, and I think I finally got it going. Should be good to go now with the landscape view. What is good, everyone? Welcome into Scout Team Sports. I am your host, DeValian. We are on location this weekend due to work, and I'm in the hotel room, but I'm still going to bring you your weekend episode, getting it in a little early of Scout Team Sports for this live stream. And those who want to watch it afterward, you are more than welcome to. Normally, we are Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Pacific time. But since I am in a different time zone and things are discombobulated and I have obligations to meet on tomorrow, we're going to do it the night before. But feel free to watch this anytime that you want to. Big sports weekend coming up. But we start back off with Wednesday night. Wednesday night, I had just got into, actually Wednesday morning during the day, I had just got into where I'm at now on location for work. And I decided, since I've got this day as far as a travel day and I've got the rest of the day to kind of relax, I was like, let me go ahead and get in the midweek scramble early for all of you subscribers out there and viewers. I appreciate especially all those, especially who watch the midweek scramble YouTube short every Wednesday. That's been doing really good, surprising me even. So thankful for all those who normally click on that midweek scramble YouTube short. For Scout Team Sports is doing very well. If you could please, the whole point of those shorts is to get people to watch the live stream and the podcast on Saturday, normally Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So if you could please share this with those who are sports enthusiasts, especially of college football, the NFL, and the NBA, mainly because, this is the big show. But still going to continue to do the YouTube shorts and appreciate all of the support with the YouTube shorts. Now, when I made that Wednesday during the day, much earlier than I normally do, YouTube short, the midweek scramble, as soon as I finished that, it seemed like a whole bunch of stuff just started falling into place as far as breaking news, breaking this, breaking that. So Wednesday night, the first thing that happens, and we're going to start from college football and then go back to the NFL, back to Wednesday night in terms of what happened in the NFL. But as far as college football, the biggest thing, of course, you have Michigan winning the national championship the past Monday. And, there's still question marks with Jim Harbaugh because even though they won the national championship over Washington, as I predicted, they're still under investigation with the whole taping or stealing sign scandal. So that might propel Jim Harbaugh to still leave to, because he got suspended for some games during the season, but he's not going to sit by and be suspended for even further or penalized even further. He'd rather just leave. Plus, there's still that, he got to a Super Bowl but didn't win a Super Bowl ring. And his big brother, John Harbaugh, already has a ring, so he wants to get a ring too. And that's the one thing that he has not conquered. And if there's anything you know about Jim Harbaugh as opposed to John likes to stay one place and be there for a long time. What he's done with Baltimore, very great, as well as getting them back to prominence as the first seed in the playoffs in the NFL right now in the AFC. But Jim wants that Super Bowl ring too. That's the one thing that has eluded him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does try to go back. The only problem is I don't want him going to it's not going to be the Patriots because we'll get into that later. But I don't want him going to the Chargers, the Chiefs, or the Broncos. And, of course, Chiefs and the Broncos look like they're sewn up in terms of who they have and who they want. But I know that there's talk about the Raiders. But then even with Mark Davis, who should go ahead and sign Antonio Pierce, who has earned the job to be head coach of the Raiders. Mark Davis is probably he likes the big name, and he might just go after Harbaugh just so that the Chargers don't get him, because it's rumored that the Chargers are also interested in Jim Harbaugh. I'm cool as long as Jim Harbaugh doesn't go to the Chargers. He can go anywhere else as long as it's not in the AFC West. If he goes to AFC West, then I would like it to be the Raiders, even though I still would prefer Antonio Pierce over Jim Harbaugh because it just fits better. It just fits better. I want Antonio Pierce to go through a whole draft of who he wants, get the offensive coordinator he wants, the quarterback that they want for the future, which is not Aiden O'Connell, in my opinion. Aiden O'Connell played his butt off, in terms of, what he could do. But you got to remember, that's still who Josh McDaniels drafted. And I just don't think that's Raiders style, Raiders football. I mean, we could have been in the playoffs, in my opinion, very well much in the playoffs if we had a decent quarterback, at least like maybe middle of the pack quarterback. And you can't say, oh, he's a rookie, he's a baby. I get it, but rookies are expected a lot more now. There's much more expected of rookies now. It doesn't matter where you get drafted. I guess if you get drafted higher, you're expected to perform much sooner. But in this league and when the way things happen, you got to be ready at any time. I mean, technically there is no excuse, because if Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft when he got drafted, can become the starter of the 49ers, the top team in the NFC right now, and a Super Bowl favorite, if he can do that, there's no excuse for anybody who gets drafted in front of him. So, Aiden O'Connell was a 4th-round draft pick, so there's no excuse. There's no excuse. I mean, the whole baby thing, the whole he's young, he's rookie, I get it. Every quarterback's not the same, but this is a competitive league. So if Mr. Relevant can rise to the occasion, and it's not just because he's on a really good stacked team, he's performed himself. So it's not just everybody else is doing the work for him, like some quarterbacks get by on. No, Brock Purdy's actually putting in the work. He's actually performing himself. So yeah, but that's getting too far off into the NFL. But yeah, Jim Harbaugh, he's probably gonna go if this investigation goes south with the sign stealing as far as his time with Michigan. But then also Nick Saban retiring as Alabama head coach. One of those things where I was like, okay, finally time is 72. 72 years old. I mean, I just figured some dudes, they were just going to go forever till they couldn't move anymore. Because, I mean, the money's good. Nobody's going to tell him no. Nobody's going to tell him you're going to have to step down, especially if he's still winning. Even though I don't think they deserve to get into the college football playoff this season, they still made it. It's selected in, and they fought hard and only lost by a touchdown to Michigan. So, but he finally retiring. Probably widely considered as the most successful and greatest college football head coach of all time, with winning 7 titles, 1 at LSU and 6 at Alabama. Just clear dominance. They knew what they were getting when they got him, and hats off to him. Hats off to greatness at the college football level. But I guess he realized it was his time to go, and no sooner, I would say, than maybe a day and a half did they find the replacement for Nick Saban. And I didn't think it was going to be this guy, but Kalen DeBoer. And if that sounds familiar, yes, that is the head coach, or now former head coach, of the Washington Huskies, who just lost to Michigan in the national championship game. I personally would have liked DeBoer to stay at Washington and build a new dynasty there, a winning culture. And yeah, he's already done it for 2 seasons, but to me, that's not enough for one college school. I mean, when he was at the lower level, the NAIA, won 3 national championships at that level, was at Fresno State for a small stint, and then I get it. You're at the smaller school so that you can go to a big-time school. And I get it. You could say that Bama is much bigger time than Washington, but Washington is still one of the part of the Power 5 conferences, and now is moving to the Big Ten, and was always part of the Pac-12, and then moving to the Big Ten, and they're a top tier. So I mean, I would have expected Washington to be in the national championship picture, the college football playoff picture, for years to come, with the head coach, with DeBoer as head coach. But now that's up in question. I don't think Michael Penix Jr. is going to stick around for another season. I'm thinking he's probably going to jump to the pros eventually, now that this news has come down. So the head coach who just took Washington to the national championship game, college football national championship, and lost to Michigan, is now the new head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide. replacing Nick Saban. He's got pieces there. He's got the recruiting. He's got everything he needs. Along with his coaching, they should be returned to promise. Maybe they have one struggling season. And for Alabama, struggling is like, just missing the SEC championship and making the Peach Bowl or something. That's struggling for them. Just barely missing, the college football playoff. But with it expanding to 12 teams, I don't see how they could not make it with the college football playoff expanding. And I personally still think it should only be 8 teams, but now they're expanding it to 12. So you're going to have some mediocrity, in my opinion, for the first round and maybe even the second round. So it is what it is. But yeah, that's big time to me as far as, like I said, I would have wanted Kalen DeBoer to stay at Washington and build a dynasty with a team that, is relatively new to the national championship scene, and for them to be a regular competitor, and then especially moving to the Big Ten, where they're going to be going head to head with Michigan and Ohio State and whatnot. So, but he jumped ship, and now it's up in the air in terms of who the Washington Huskies are going to get for their next head coach. But now we move to the NFL. Now the college football is done for the season. And again, this was the first thing that dropped after I did the midweek scramble on Wednesday. Like I said, I normally do it later in Wednesday night, but I did it earlier, Wednesday afternoon. And then no sooner did I get off of doing that and completing the midweek scramble than I saw Pete Carroll stepping down as the Seahawks head coach. He's going to be the advisor role, which to me is like, what was it, the advisor role? What do you really do? They're just giving him a free paycheck for giving advice to a head coach who's probably going to want to do it his way anyway. So I don't see what the deal is with it's like they wanted to fire him, but they didn't want to make it seem like a firing. So they say he will become a supervisory role, and then eventually he'll just disappear. So yeah, I think that's basically what it is. But yeah, Pete Carroll stepping down as Seahawks head coach. And so now the Seahawks are looking for a new head coach. And then another maybe 24 hours, less than 24 hours, Bill Belichick, after I thought he was going to stay forever. Bill Belichick is now out as the Patriots head coach. And I didn't think that it was going to. Notice they didn't say he's retiring. So it's like, okay, well, everybody's like, what's next? I really thought he would retire. I don't see why he wants to continue to head coach. He's 71. He's only a year behind Nick Saban in your 70s. And again, he didn't say retiring. It's just he's out. They agreed to mutually part ways, Belichick and the Patriots. But and even them, I figured Pete Carroll and the Seahawks would have had a replacement head coach. But the Patriots got one right away, and it is shocking because it is Gerard Mayo. Now, yes, former Patriot. Not surprised that they would go after a former Patriot, but I am surprised it's a black head coach, and especially with as hard as it is for black head coaches or black assistant coaches, position coaches, to get the head coaching position, even if they are a former player, even if they used to play for that team, it's still not a guarantee at all. And for the Patriots, hiring Gerard Mayo as a new head coach, they already had this in mind because Bill Belichick hasn't even been gone for 24 hours. And Gerard Mayo is the new head coach of the Patriots. First black head coach in Patriots history. And you've heard me talk about black head coaches before. I know that might turn some people off. But of all the teams who I know have never had a black head coach before or haven't had a black head coach in a long time, if they've ever tried it before, the Patriots, to me, were one of the furthest teams away from even trying to have a black head coach. I just didn't think they would ever pull the trigger, surprisingly. But, I mean, even if it is a former Patriot, that's fine with me. More black assistant coaches and position coaches have earned, I didn't say deserve, earned a head coaching opportunity. And another thing surprising is the defensive guy, because Gerard Mayo used to play linebacker for the Patriots, and you can tell that the struggles of the Patriots ever since Tom Brady left have been the offense, and Gerard Mayo is a defensive guy. Now, yeah, maybe Belichick was losing the locker room, and so even the Patriots' defense is still not what it used to be back in their going back to their championship days. So maybe it's Gerard Mayo's duty to rebuild the defense and make it strong again to what it once was, and then they'll work on the offense as they go. That's still going to be an Achilles heel of this team, though. But nonetheless, hats off, congratulations to Gerard Mayo, first black head coach in New England Patriots history. Just wish more teams could do that. But nonetheless, it is something that I was, like I said, shocked that they got somebody so quick. But of course, they already had this waiting in the wings. They were just trying to find an easy way to get Belichick out of the picture. So they say mutually part ways as opposed to saying he was fired. But he's probably not done because he didn't say he's retiring. So we'll see what happens from there. So now we get into the playoffs as far as what's going down tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I don't agree with this whole 2 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday, 1 game on Monday. You haven't had Monday Night Football in a couple weeks already because the last 2 weeks of the season, you didn't have Monday Night Football. Now all of a sudden you want to put 1 game on Monday Night Football, and you put probably the weakest and least interesting of all wildcard playoff games on Monday night. Doesn't make sense to me. But nonetheless, we start with Saturday. Browns at Texans. You know how I really like, and I've talked about C.J. Stroud. Hats off to the Texans, first of all, winning that 3-way tie with the Jaguars losing to the Titans. The Titans losing their head coach, Mike Vrabel, which a lot of people thought Vrabel was going to be the next head coach of the Patriots, which was shocking that he didn't get it. But Jaguars lose and the Texans beat the Colts. So the Texans win the division, earn the 4th seed, and are hosting the Browns. Unfortunately, I was hoping that the Browns would, with them losing another game, would have dropped to the 6th seed. That way they'd be facing the Chiefs in the first round. I did not get my wish. Therefore, they are facing the Texans. I really like, again, C.J. Stroud. Black head coach, black quarterback, D'Amico Ryans, and then black quarterback C.J. Stroud. I'm seeing big things in their future. I don't think it's going to happen this year, though. But this is a start in the right direction with winning the division, which I didn't think that they would even come close to this season. Most people didn't, probably a rebuilding year and whatnot. But, the head coach did what he needed to do with that defense, and that C.J. Stroud and the offense came together, even with him being hurt, concussed a couple games. But then they come back and win it in the end. Last game of the season, drowning the Colts, kicking the Colts out of playoffs and winning the AFC South. But to me, they're coming in to a buzzsaw in the Browns. Like I said, I'm going to stick to my guns. The only 2 teams that I see possibly coming out of the AFC this year to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl is the Ravens at the 1 seed and the Browns at the 5th seed. I just hope that the Browns don't face the Ravens in the 2nd round. I'm hoping some way that a lower seed team will win, 6 or 7 seed team will win, and go see the Ravens in the 2nd round, and then the Browns will see the Bills or the Chiefs in the 2nd round, and then it'd be the Browns and the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. That's what I'm hoping for. But I don't see anybody beating the Browns in these playoffs other than the Ravens. And I don't see anybody beating the Ravens in the AFC playoffs other than the Browns. So unfortunately for C.J. Stroud and the Texans, who I believe will put up a good fight, but I believe that Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns, a dominant defense, the stable running game, and a trick here, a trick there, and the stability of Joe Flacco will beat the Texans. So I'm picking the Browns over the Texans. Your other Saturday game is going to be Dolphins at Chiefs. This one, they've been putting it out there that it's going to be below 30 degrees. And if any team that I don't think that can really handle that, it's the Dolphins. I was thinking maybe if this was the Bills, they can go into KC and win. They've done it before, and they're accustomed to the cold weather. If it was the Steelers, or if it was another team that was fighting for a playoff spot, then maybe they could do it. But I don't see the Dolphins being able to do this. They're a warm weather team. And most importantly, they don't have all the guns healthy. Tyreek Hill is going to be playing, of course. He's dealing with the whole house catching on fire, and who did that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a woman. Let's just be real about it. I mean, who else is it going to be? So, unless it was an accident. And that messing with his head. If it is his head right, is it ready to focus on football, his kids' safety? I don't know all the things that could have happened and would have happened and might have happened. And now he's thinking about that because, he's got to take care of his family first. So, but he's, at the same time got a job to do. I still hope that he wins MVP. Of course, he won first team All-Pro, of course, unanimously. And I think he should win the MVP. But nonetheless, especially that he's probably not going to win now because of them losing that last game to the Bills. But yeah, that, and then Jalen Waddle still not 100%. They've got a couple other key players that are not going to be 100%. And it's not like the Chiefs are all that great this year, obviously. But if you're not coming full force to beat Pat Mahomes, then you're not going to beat Pat Mahomes. I could see a full-strength Dolphins team, a full-strength Bills team, a full-strength anybody team, especially the Ravens, beating the Chiefs handily. But if you're depleted, if you don't have all guns blazing, if you have a couple key players that are not healthy, not ready to go, it's going to be hard to beat the Chiefs. It really is going to be hard to beat the Chiefs. Plus the weather, minus 30 with the wind chill. Nah. So picking the Chiefs, unfortunately. Picking the Chiefs over the Dolphins. Had it been the Cleveland Browns, I would say it could be ice on the field, and the Browns would mollywop the Chiefs, which is what I was hoping for. But anyway, maybe it'll happen in the second round. You never know. So I got Browns beating the Texans. I've got Chiefs beating the Dolphins. And then we get to the Sunday games. We've got Steelers at Bills. Just going to knock out the last AFC game. I believe the Bills get the win here, but it's going to be a tough one because the Steelers come in. You can never count a Mike Tomlin team out. I don't care how bad they look. He's one of. I mean, it's a reason why you could say, oh, the Steelers normally just don't hire that many different head coaches, but it'd be different if Mike Tomlin had losing seasons. He's had a winning season every year he's been there, even if they don't make the playoffs. A winning season every year. You cannot not give that man the flowers for that. So, I mean, he has his team playing tough, regardless of how depleted they are. I do think Mason Rudolph is the play. I don't think you put Kenny Pickett in here. I think that would sabotage you because they just, they whiffed on that one. Kenny Pickett's not the right guy for the future of the Steelers at quarterback if you want to win. So you stick with Mason Rudolph, and then you look for another quarterback come this upcoming draft. And I think that the Bills having some key players out, wide receivers, safeties, a couple of guys. They're going to win this game, I believe, but it's going to be tough, and they're going to be bruised and beaten up. And so I fear for whoever they face, for them in terms of whoever they face in the second round, because they might not make it past the second round because if they're not at full strength, and especially if they face the Chiefs again, where, yeah, they beat the Chiefs in the regular season, but they barely beat them, and then they come into a second meeting with the Chiefs in the playoffs and they're not full strength, I don't trust it. But for right now, I'm going to go with them barely beating a tough Steelers team, but I'll pick Bills over Steelers. Next, we have going to the NFC. We've got Packers at Cowboys. I see some people on NFL.com calling for the upset. It's talking about Jordan Love is going to carve up the Cowboys D. Now, we'll give Jordan Love this. He has come on strong. Hats off to the Packers' first year post-Aaron Rodgers era to make the playoffs. And, of course, Aaron Rodgers, we don't know what would have happened if he would have been healthy and played the entire season. I think they would have made the playoffs, that being the Jets. But nevertheless, with Jordan Love not looking too good in the first half of the season, but then coming on strong and playing well in the second half of the season and them squeezing into that 7th seed, I do think they put up a fight, but I think that right now the Cowboys are just too high-powered. You're going to have to come with more than what the Packers have in order to beat the Cowboys. And even just say, if Jordan Love seems to do somewhat well again against that Cowboys defense, I realize that at some point not having Trayvon Diggs, who was out for the season earlier on, is going to bite the Cowboys in the behind at some point. I don't think it's now, but I think it does eventually happen. But I don't think it comes here because you have to look at the other side. You have to look at that Cowboys offense versus the Packers D. And in that regard, I will take the Cowboys offense as long as Dak and CD are playing well and they can run the football. It doesn't have to be spectacular, but just be able to run the football and balance the attack. I think the Cowboys win, especially them being at home. So I'm picking the Cowboys here over the Packers. Don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means, but I do think the Cowboys come out on top. So picking the Cowboys over the Packers. Now we get to probably the biggest storyline game. And I'm sad to say who I'm going to pick in this game because I really want to pick the other way. We're talking about Rams at Lions. You know, the whole Jared Goff, Matt Stafford trade. Matt Stafford gets traded to the Rams and they win the Super Bowl first year he gets there. And Jared Goff is being traded to a worser team. So it's not really fair to say, oh, he didn't do anything his first year. To me, he actually did. Because the Lions were hot garbage on offense and defense. And he had that offense playing with no-name stars. With no stars on that team but him. Jared Goff had that offense playing, but they were losing shootouts because they had no defense. So they eventually get a little bit better on defense. Last year, they sweep the Packers with Aaron Rodgers. And now, this third year, they get a little bit better on defense, which is, again, it's taking this defense forever to get along because they're drafting and they're trying to make it strong through the draft, which is the way that you should do it. You can't just do it by hook and crook and hire a bunch of free agents. That just doesn't work. And plus, how many free agents are you going to get to come to Detroit in the first place? But they band together, they get stronger, they get better, and the offense stays consistent, the defense progresses, and in a weaker NFC North, the Lions, head and shoulders above the rest, win the NFC North, and I think that's a big accomplishment for them. Detroit fans should be happy regardless of what happens in the playoffs. I'm not talking about moral victories, but appreciate at least this leap and bound in terms of how far you've come. Like, a natural progression would have been for the Lions just to make the playoffs this year. But not only do they make the playoffs, they handily and convincingly win the NFC North and with 12 wins. Like, that's really great. That's great for them. So hats off to the Lions. Like I said, not a moral victory, but Lions fans, be happy about that because, like I said, the natural progression would be for you to just barely make the playoffs. And you not only made the playoffs, you won this division, albeit a much weaker division, but you are the best team and you made the right draft choices, especially when it comes to running back, who a lot of people said, don't do it, don't pick a running back in the first round, and you did, and it turned out to be the right decision because you have the best running back tandem in the NFL, in my opinion. But, Jared Goff has looked kind of shaky in the last couple of weeks. To me, they did beat the Cowboys, so they should technically be the second seed right now, with that whole bogus call, the lineman eligible and whatnot. But now the fact that they're facing, if I would be more confident if they were facing the Packers in the first round, but the fact that they're facing the Rams, and the Rams, after going 3-6, have now won 6 of their last 7, or 7 of their last 8 rather, and now have emerged as a strong 6th seed in the playoffs. And now the fact that they're going to face the Lions, and it's, both quarterbacks facing their former team. Matt Stafford is so happy to leave Detroit and go to LA, and they win a Super Bowl, and Jared Goff being bitter and angry probably about leaving LA and having to go to Detroit, but look what he's done and turned that team around. Yes, he did that. I'm not giving the credit to Campbell or anybody else. I'm giving it to Jared Goff. If they don't have Jared Goff, they're not in the position that they're in. So he did that. He should be proud of that, turning that team around and making them a playoff team. Jared Goff did that. But the Rams are just looking so strong right now, and Aaron Donald and company going after Jared Goff, who's not really a mobile quarterback. He can move around a little bit, but I don't really consider him a mobile quarterback. And on top of that, I'm not sure how this Lions defense is going to hold up against Matt Stafford. It'd be different if Matt Stafford, if all he had was Cooper Kupp. But now you've got Puka Nacua, probably the best number 2 wide receiver in the league with breaking the rookie receiving yards record. And then part of that was because Cooper Kupp was hurt. Had Cooper Kupp been healthy the entire season, then Puka Nacua wouldn't have broken that record. But nonetheless, still a very, very good, probably the best number 2 wide receiver in the league. And then you go with Special K at running back. And yeah, if they've got a running game now, which even in the Super Bowl they didn't really have. I don't consider Cam Akers good at all. He's fumble prone. And in spite of that, they still beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl a couple years back. But now they have a running game too. I mean, man, the Rams are dangerous. They are very dangerous. Yeah, I want the Lions to win because I want Jared Goff to vanquish the past, if you will, and move forward to competing with the Lions on a consistent basis, which I believe that they will. And there's no reason why they shouldn't come back and win the NFC North next year as well. But then, especially him facing his old team that didn't want him anymore. And yeah, that's partly his fault because he didn't play that well. After they lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. So following that, he just didn't play well. But nonetheless, I want this to be his time. Matt Stafford got his time, won the Super Bowl with his new team. I want Jared Goff at least to vanquish the Rams in the playoffs and pursue a championship, even though I don't think they'll win a championship this year with the Lions. But unfortunately, that's not how life goes, and I just think that the Rams right now are a stronger team. If that defense of the Lions was better and was more solid than what they are now, I would have more faith in the Lions, but I don't think Jared Goff can do it by himself in that offense. I mean, even if it comes to a shootout, that's tough. Jared Goff and company can win a shootout. Detroit can win a shootout, but so can the Rams. So, and then with the Rams having a better defense, it makes it for Jared Goff having a tougher time out there as opposed to Matt Stafford having a tougher time out there against that Lions D. So, unfortunately, I got to pick the Rams over the Lions. And then we get to, like I said, the least interesting just because of how bad the NFC South was, the weakest division in football. You had all three teams, the Falcons with a losing record, still vying for a possible playoff berth and NFC South championship had everything went their way with the Bucks and the Saints losing, but that didn't happen. And then the Saints barely, who I picked to win the division because I didn't think there was a better quarterback than Derek Carr in the NFC South, and that's not saying much. But yet, and still, Baker Mayfield puts it together as just enough times, not the whole season, but just enough times to help this team win the NFC South once again. And they are hosting playoff game by winning the division. Now with the Eagles, they've fallen off too, and people are pointing to what's wrong. I still go back to the fact that, just because you change offensive and defensive coordinators doesn't mean it's going to work. I get the talent is still the talent, and to me the talent is why they have a winning record this year despite not winning their division. That's why the Eagles have a winning record and are in the playoffs, a high 5 seed, is because their talent got them there. But at some point, coaching has got to push you over the top, and they just don't have it. It's obvious. Who they lost at offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator is greatly affecting them. Most teams, when something like this happens, you reach a Super Bowl and then people want to go their different ways, you might lose an offensive coordinator, but you keep your defensive coordinator. And you just have to find a new offensive one. Or you lose your defensive coordinator, and then you just have to find a new defensive coordinator. I'm not sure if I said the same thing twice. So either you lose one coordinator, keep the other one, or vice versa. But losing both of them in the same offseason, that to me doesn't happen that often. And so you have two really good, like I said, talent got them to this point, two really good offense and defense that don't have their same coach anymore. And so it's a new coaching style. Does the coach mesh with the talent? My opinion is they don't, because if they did, they'd be better than what they are. And for them to kind of drizzle down to what they did when they had so many opportunities, even then the Cowboys getting ahead of them, and then the Cowboys losing again, and they could have won and got back in the driver's seat of the division and still couldn't do it against teams that to me were not as good as them, shows how far they've dropped off. So I really don't think it's working with the offensive and defensive coordinator that they have right now. But I still think they have enough to get past the Bucks. But they're probably going to be limping into the next round, and whoever they face in the next round is going to slaughter them. That's just my opinion. But I think the Eagles do get the Bucks here. I think the Eagles get the win over the Bucks, but barely, because the way they've dropped off, they're not that much better than the Bucks, but they are better. So I do expect the better team to win, not by much, and they'll be so depleted from this that they'll get annihilated in the second round. But I do pick the Eagles over the Buccaneers. And so we'll just get into a little bit of NBA talk here. So the Clippers will, with their new stadium that they're getting in Inglewood called the Intuit Dome, will host the 2026 All-Star Game. And the Intuit Dome is in Inglewood, will be in Inglewood. I am shocked with Inglewood. I don't understand how they're able to. I mean, I get LA is big, but even Inglewood is like you already got the gigantic SoFi Stadium. This is just going to be south of SoFi, and you got the Honda Center, and you got the. I'm like, how do they have enough space to fit all this? Like, really, like you can't really even live in Inglewood no more because all the living space is being attributed to arenas. Inglewood is now a place where you can't live. You come there to enjoy entertainment and whatnot, but there's no space to live because they're kicking everybody out and building stadiums and arenas. Next thing you know, there'll be another stadium for something else there. So, yeah, there's a Kia Center there, formerly the Grand Western Forum. I'm like, what is going on with Inglewood? How are they able to do all this? I finally saw SoFi Stadium from a distance for the first time. I'm like, that's a spaceship. It's a spaceship. It is not a stadium. It is a spaceship. You can't tell me otherwise. But, yeah, and then on top of that, Kawhi Leonard signing a 3-year, $153 million extension with the Clippers. At first, I didn't get it. But I had to realize something that I realized in football, but I just didn't put it over in the baseball and the basketball as well. Everybody who signs a deal is not necessarily looking for a championship. And it's not fair anymore to say that everybody should be, because there are some guys, their main priority is family. Their main priority is making sure that their family is set for the future, that they're set financially for the future. And so they're going to take the best deal financially as opposed to the best opportunity to win a championship. Now, in Kawhi's case, he's already won 2. He's already won one with the Spurs and then got league MVP, and they beat LeBron to do that. I mean, not league MVP, but NBA Finals MVP when he was with the Spurs. And then you win one with the Raptors, who you get traded to, who you probably didn't want to be there, but you made it work. And you won with the Raptors. And you could have had the keys to the city. You're probably the most popular guy in Canada, and probably still are, even though you're not there anymore. So, you go to LA, I get it. He was from LA, went to San Diego State. He's doing this thing on the off season in North San Diego and La Jolla, wherever that is, on the beach house, and just enjoying the time there. I would be too. If I had to play in LA, I'd be like, let me get that spot in San Diego. Because if you ask me where I'd rather work, I've gone to San Diego State. I've spent some time in LA. If you ask me where I'd rather work, LA. If you ask me where I'd rather live, San Diego, hands down. So if you can have the best of both worlds, by all means, go ahead. And that's exactly what Kawhi is doing. So, yeah, I mean, signing it in now, it's just like in the NFL. Players, star athletes are getting more money for shorter deals. Like normally, just like in the NFL, even in the NBA, maybe 10, 15 years ago, you'd have to sign a 7 to 8 year contract extension to get $153 million. Now you get it for 3 years. I mean, especially with Kawhi and the load management and not being fully healthy every single season. I mean, that's nothing. 3 years is nothing. He's probably not going to play the entire season, every season. But as long as he helps them get to the playoffs and they make a run for a title, even if they don't make it, he's fulfilled his contract. But the thing is, if he really wanted to win more titles, I get that they say it's a mess and whatnot there over across the way, across the street, if you will, or in the same arena as they are now, before they moved to their own arena. But if he wanted more titles when he was a free agent after leaving Toronto, I think he would have went with the Lakers. I honestly think he would have went with the Lakers. How do you pass up playing with AD and LeBron, where if he did join them, they would have a couple more rings right now? It wouldn't just be, and I'm not talking about the bubble title either. Scratch the bubble championship. If Kawhi would have made the choice to be a Laker, and it was Kawhi, AD, and LeBron, even if they don't have a point guard, which are like LeBron needs shooters and they don't have a true point guard, you could put D. Russ in there. You could put Lonzo Ball back in there. The Lakers are winning at least 2 to 3 more rings in the time span from when Kawhi would have signed with the Lakers as a free agent to now. They would have more titles. But he goes to the Clippers. He tells management, give me another star and we'll play and we'll do it together. And they go out and get Paul George. They've gotten to the playoffs for the most part consistently, aside from when Kawhi is hurt and when Paul George is hurt. They've gotten to as far as the conference finals, but that's been it. And signing 3 more years with the Clippers, the way the West is, I don't see it anytime soon, because aside from the Timberwolves, and I don't know how long their success can be sustained, I don't see anybody coming out of the West but the Nuggets. The Nuggets are young. As long as they're healthy, there's nobody in the West beating the Nuggets. They're the best team. I didn't say they had all the best players, but the best team in the West. Hands down. The best team. I don't care if they're 3rd seed right now in the rankings and whatnot, in the seeding, if the playoffs were to end today. They are the best team in the West, in my opinion. Not Oklahoma City, and not even the T-Wolves. The Denver Nuggets are still the best team in the West. And just say, if you get to the playoffs and the top 3 teams are the T-Wolves, Oklahoma City, and the Nuggets, the Clippers can get past one of those teams. They're not getting past both of them. If you have to go through the T-Wolves and the Nuggets in the playoffs, you're not going. You're not getting past. You can get past one of those teams, maybe. You're not getting past both of them. Especially if you face the T-Wolves first and then have to face the Nuggets last. You're not winning. They just don't have enough right now. It's Kawhi if he stays healthy. It's Paul George if he stays healthy. And then the supporting cast. And it's just not enough. And yeah, you got Westbrook. Yeah, you got James Harden. You never know if those guys are actually going to stay on the team or not. Whether they want to leave or they get kicked out. You don't know if they're going to stay. So it's hard for me to trust the Clippers. It's really hard for me to trust the Clippers. And like I said, Kawhi is right now, he's my favorite player. Ever since Tim Duncan retired, he's my favorite player. I don't have a favorite NBA team, but Kawhi Leonard is my favorite player. And if he wanted more rings, I don't think he would have joined the Clippers. It's just me. Yeah, they've gotten to the playoffs. Yeah, he's done great things as far as making that team a championship contender, because you have to be if you get your team to the conference finals. But I just think there's too much competition in the West, and there's younger and stronger and teams with more stamina than the Clippers have right now. I mean, you think about it collectively, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden are old compared to the Nuggets, compared to the T-Wolves. They're old. And you can have some experience, but you got to have some youth to balance that out on your team, or else you're not making it to a title. I don't care if you got a big 3. I mean, even the last time that the Warriors won their 4th title, they had the big 3, but the big 3 was old. And Steph Curry played his heart out, deservedly earned the MVP. But if it wasn't for the young guys on that team helping them out, balancing out the older guys who were more seasoned, they wouldn't have won that title. So, yeah, I don't think that I would have liked to see Kawhi as a Laker. I would have liked to see Kawhi as a Laker and see what him, AD, and LeBron could have done together. But that was his decision. He chose otherwise. Hats off to him for getting another contract extension, 3 years. Like I said, 3 years would be gone. Like in 3 years would be gone like that for $153 million. But I don't think that it's about championships with Kawhi anymore. And like I said, if that's his agenda, that's fine. Like I said, everybody is not about winning the title. And you can't tell any pro athlete nowadays what should be important to them. Because the more you think about it, the NBA is no different, in my opinion, than any other place of employment nowadays. The employer expects you to be loyal to them, but they're not loyal to you. So why would you not look out for yourself? Take the best deal, do what it is that you want to do, what's most important to you. If championships are most important to you, go after a championship. If money is more important to you, go after money. Because if nobody else is going to be loyal to you, why should you be loyal to them? That doesn't, it's got to go both ways. Either it goes both ways or it doesn't go at all. That's how it should be. You want loyalty, you give loyalty. If not, you do your thing, I'm going to do mine. So what it should be. So, with that being said, hats off to Kawhi for getting that 3-year, $153 million extension for only 3 years. Wow, something else. But that'll conclude this edition of Scout Team Sports. We'll get more and more into the NBA as time progresses, and college football is over, but then there's still the NFL playoffs, and once that's over, we'll be full into the NBA, especially when it comes to that All-Star game, All-Star weekend, that, if you will, that's coming up around the corner somewhat. But yeah, we'll get into that once we get there. But that'll do it for this edition of Scout Team Sports. I am your host, DeValian. Appreciate all of those who continue to support. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe with this podcast as we continue to grow and continue to grow this podcast into making it something special that I believe that it can be. Until next time, believe until you stop breathing. If you have any comments or anything like that, post your comments below. We can talk sports, and I can even get you up on here on the podcast if you like, and we can talk sports, go back and forth if you want. Okay, again, this is DeValian with Scout Team Sports. Believe until you stop breathing, and we'll see you in the next video.